Hello everyone, in this video tutorial I'm going to cover the basic syntax of cookie. Uh, if you have watched the very first video of this series, you realize one way to refer to the previous communication with the server is to save a cookie in a computer, and every time you go back to the same domain name you will send the information of that cookie to that server so the server can act on it. So let's go through the basic syntax of cookie. So let me just go ahead and create a new page here. So start our coding on the browser to learn about the syntax. Okay, let me just open my VS Code, JavaScript Cookie 02. Right? So I'm going to use this file only for presentation. I'm not going to write anything in this file. Just keep in mind, in order to be able to run cookies, you need to run this one on not on the file. So you cannot just double click on the file and start experimenting the cookie. It must be under the domain name. In this case, I'm using Live Server, one of the plugins for VS Code, to be able to run the cookie locally. So let's go ahead and see the syntax. So I go to inspect element, right click on inspect element. This is Chrome browser. I go to the console, clean everything up here. The very first thing is if you know, document is an object that holds all the information about this page, right? So this is everything about that page. The other object that we can work on under the document is called document.cookie. So document.cookie actually holds the information about the cookie or piece of information for each of these domains that you visit. So when you revisit them, this information can go back to those domains to do something, right? So right now in this browser, I have a cookie, and as you remember, cookie consists of two parts, name and the value. So the name is BG color and the value is red, right? I can keep adding the cookie to this document if I need to. In order to add a cookie, I simply go ahead, write the same thing I did to retrieve the cookie, make it equal, and then I'll give a name. So in this case, I say, okay, I want you to save a cookie. The field name is name and the value is John, right? So it will go and create another cookie in the browser for the same domain, which in this case is 127.0.0.1. And if I go back and print this, you can see a string that represents the document.cookie consists of two parts. First is the BG color, and then is the name, which are separated by one semicolon. Let's go and add another one. So I'm going to go here, and this time I go and say, you know what, I want to add the age 32 as well. Now, if I go back to the cookie, you see there are three of them. So one of the examples that we can use cookie is when people come to the login page and they want the application to remember the username. Let me show you an example. So if you look at this form right now, it has a username and the password and remember me option, which is in the checkbox. So what happened here is when user click on login, the username, the password, the checkbox will be sent to the server or to the server-side script. Server-side script is already coded to see if the checkbox is checked to create a cookie. So it's going to create a cookie, saves the username, and respond with that cookie. So the browser receives the cookie, writes it into the browser. So next time when you go back to the same page under the same domain, simply the server will get the cookie value. It knows that it has to remember your username. It reads the username of the cookie file and then posts it into the username field and make the checkbox checked as well, right? So that's one of the instances that we can use. But let's go ahead and do some of the things with the cookie as well. So if I go through the cookie, as you can see, this is a string separated with a semicolon. So the very first thing I can do is if I want to access these cookie, I should be able to separate them. What is the delimiter between these cookie is a semicolon. So let's go do that. So I'm going to go ahead, document.cookie. I'll use the split function, right? And simply I'm going to use the semicolon, which is the separator among all these cookies. So as you can see this, I have simply have all these separated into three elements, three arrays. First one is the BG color, second one is name, and the last one is age. So let me go ahead and say let cookie array, right, and equal let's just do this, cookie document.split. So I save everything into a cookie array, right? I still have access. So if I want to get the first one, I simply go ahead and access the first element by a square bracket 0. So it gives me the first element of that array, right? And then if I need to access the value of the BG color, you look at this string and the delimiter between the name and the value, or the key and value, is an equal sign. So I should be able to simply go ahead and say split this one with an equal sign, right? If I do that, then I get an array with 2 elements, right? So let's go ahead and create another variable, call it BG color is equal cookie array dot, let's go to the first element, which I want to get only the BG color at this time, right? And split, and I'm going to put the equal sign there, right? So if you look at this right now, I'm splitting the array by the equal sign, and I save it into BG color, right? Now, if I want to access the value stored in the BG color, I can simply go ahead and put either 0 for the name or 1 for the value, right? So that's basically what we can do to access the cookie elements or cookie values or names, right? But one of the things, if you look at this now, if I go to the application, I have all the 3 cookies under the Google Developer Tools application tab. I have the age, BG color, and name, right? And well, age has its value, the domain are all same, pad all same. We talk about the pad later on. But if you look at this, the age and the name are both session, meaning if I close this browser, then I come back, age and name will not be there anymore, while the BG color stays until the day is specified here, right? Let's go ahead and experiment that. So I'm going to close this, right? And I will go ahead and run this again. Let me just go ahead and bring the page here, right? Inspect element. So right now, if I go to application tab, go to the cookies, select the URL that matches the one I'm looking for, right? So as you can see, still is there. Now, one of the strange thing about Google Chrome is it runs some of the instances on the background. So even the session cookie cannot be deleted unless you do some modification on your setting. So any other browser, this will work, no problem. This is just this version of Chrome. I don't know if they're going to fix it in the later one or not. But simply what I can do is I can go to the settings. No, not here, sorry. I can go here to the settings on the Chrome browser. Continue running on the background is the option we have to turn on. Continue. So this one, if it's on, just make sure you turn it off, right? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to close this, and I will run the server one more time. Let's see if that will happen or not. So I'll go back here, right click on the page, open the console, go to the application, and as you can see, these are all gone, right? Only the one that stays there is the one that has the expiry date. So there are 2 ways to actually specify the expiry date, and that's what I want to do right now. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create the cookie, another cookie. I'll call it document.cookie. I call it foo, right? And I'll put the value as 123. Okay. So if I do this right now, I have created a cookie. I'll go back to the application. You can see foo 123, same domain, same path is the session, right? So I can do some changes here to keep this one for a longer period of time if I need. So one way to do that is to go ahead and add another field to our cookie, and that is called expires. Is the field that says to the browser, or tells to the browser, when this cookie is expired or is not valid anymore, don't send this cookie to the server after that point on. So I can go ahead, and what you have to do is you're going to make sure that you separate the actual name and value from the expiry as well, right? And can simply you go and say expires, and you can, there are different methods of doing this, but one way or easy way is if you have the UTC format of the date, you can simply go ahead and post it there, right? So this is going to be Friday 19 June 2020 at 8:47. This cookie gets expired, right? Let's go ahead and hit enter, see what happens, right? So I'll do that. I'll go back to the application, and as you can see, foo has been changed. Instead of session, now it has a deadline, and that is when the cookie gets expired. There's some other ways to specify this. I can go ahead and do something like this. Let me show you that. I can go ahead and do something like this, meaning I'm going to use the data object, and I put the date in. Then I simply go ahead and put a to UTC string, and then I use the value. So many different ways of doing this, and you can figure that one out by yourself if you see how to set the expiry date, right? But there is another way of specifying the expiry date too, and that is called max age. In some of the older browsers like IE, max age might not work, but it's an easier way to actually specify the expiry date. Why? Because when you do use expires, you have to mention a date that this cookie is not valid anymore. With max age, you specify the age of the cookie. You say from now on how long this is valid, for 1 minute, 10 seconds, 2 hours, 1 week, whatever it is. You specify everything by seconds, right? So if I want to do that, I just simply go here. This time I go ahead and I say max age is equal 10 seconds. There you go. So if I hit enter now, I go back to the application, I can simply see today is 23rd, right? And this is gonna be expired at that time, right? Remember, this time is GMT, is not the actual time, because that's the time we use for setting up the cookie, or UTC, right? So now that I have done this, I have created the cookie, and I simply can keep this cookie as long as I need to. Let's also talk about the expiry of the cookie, or how to delete a cookie. Like sometimes you don't need that cookie any longer to exist on the client's machine. So one thing we have to do is simply we have to change its expiries. So let's go through this example one more time, right? So if I go ahead and hit this, I created the foo, and the max age is 10, right? So I can see that. So the way I set this one up is just only for 10 seconds, meaning if I go back to this after 10 seconds, I should not be able to see that value anymore, right? Now, if I want to expire this cookie, I can simply go ahead and do max age is equal to 0 or -1, or I can put a date for expires in the past. So that way the cookie gets expired and it's not going to be there anymore, right? So if you look at this, 10 seconds is gone and the cookie does not exist, right? So that is another way of dealing or managing with the cookie. So one more time, let's go back to the application, review the cookie fields, and we finish this video after that. So I have the cookie name BG color, the value is red. I have the domain name. Remember, all cookies are attached to a domain name, meaning when you go to that domain name again, if there is a non-expired cookie for that domain, your browser will grab those information, send it to the server along with your request. The path is where this cookie is valid. Is it across the whole domain? So if you have a slash, it means after domain, any URI, any path can receive this cookie. But if I go and the path say /green, whenever you go to green folder on that server, on that domain, this information or this cookie information will pass to the server. Just keep that in mind. Remember, all these paths that I'm mentioning, you just have to add a semicolon, the name, in this case path, equal whatever path you want to add, right? Expiry, we talk about it, and max age as well too. With expiry, you set the date when this gets expired. With max age, you say how long this lasts, how long this is valid, right? And we also have a field. It's called size. It just does specify how many characters you have in that cookie. HTTP only is another field you can add to your cookie, meaning only a script, server-side script can read this, or HTTP request can access the cookie information. For instance, JavaScript cannot. We also have the secure field, which for this one, you don't have any value. You just go semicolon at the end of your cookie, you say secure. So this means this cookie is available only through HTTPS. I hope you enjoy the video. In the next video, I'm going to build an application that uses the cookie to store the background color or preferred background color for the user. Thank you for watching.